I've never heard that, but you know that's the origin of cap. I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look.
There's a principle that
Right.
we have to follow.
Yeah.
We have to have.
You know, be true to yourself. You know, you don't.
You know? So do we. Yeah, I'm telling you, you know? But man, loaf a day. Let me give you a little bit of history. I used to get beatings because I take a slice of bread and fold it. My mother said, boy, if I catch you folding that bread again, that means I'm eating twice as much. You know what I'm saying? That means no dessert for you. So that lets you know I'm a dessert guy. Okay, start eating that bread like I'm supposed to, you know? But anyway, man, I just come back off of vacation. You got to try that. You got to try it. You know what I'm saying? After you get about 20 years clean, you got to try that. You know, 5 years clean, you got to try that. Take your vacation. You know what I'm saying? Get away. Man, it was awesome, you know? So, you know, I'm able to do that today, you know? Man, I'm able to book my tickets, you know what I'm saying? Fly by myself, you know what I'm saying? And all that, man, that felt good, you know? Time out. Yeah, thank you, Pam. Oh, okay. Yeah, the last time y'all had them, I didn't get one. Yeah. But just for a minute, man. Just for a minute. Yeah, Tootsie Rolls. Who don't like Tootsie? You don't like Tootsie Rolls? Oh, I'm about to say, hey, I'll take your bag, you know. But anyway, just for a minute, I want to talk about things that are not a promise of the program. Things that are not a promise of the program, but they happen anyway. The biggie is friendship. Friendship. You know, the program don't promise you can find a best friend in here, but man, it happens on so many occasions. You know, and three of my best friends back there. You know, just want to piggyback, man, a little bit of what the last speaker that was here, she talked about, you know, going to meetings. You know, why we go to meetings? Because of the atmosphere of recovery. That's where we go. Ain't nobody in the meeting trying to sell you no drugs, trying to figure out whether they want to be there or not. You know what I'm saying? Some of them are there trying to decide whether they're an addict, you know, what route, what direction they want to take and all that. All of that stuff happens. You know what I'm saying? But then there's a light at the end of the tunnel. A whole lot of people are there, man, because they know this is what I want to do. This is the route I want to take. I want to try to do something better. As I was coming here, I was just thinking, look, man, I was thinking about all the different individuals I have met since I've been in recovery. I mean, whatever it is that you want to do, I can't tell you how many people I know that got their own business. You know what I'm saying? I mean, here recently, I can't tell you how many people are working in recovery. You know, like me. It's a whole lot of people, you know. I can't tell you about how many people that have educated themselves since they got here. Whatever it is that you want, man, but you got to do something. I tell that to my kids. If you don't know what you want to do, man, in this great big world, you got to get your head out the sand. It is something that you can do. You got to figure it out. Some things you got to figure out. You ain't got to be a bum. You ain't got to be a con, an ex-con, a jailbird all your life. You know what I'm saying? Because I thought the same thing. Man, I went from here to here. And then I was thinking, shit, should I stay here? You know, man, I'm in the penitentiary. And I realized, man, I know I can do better than this. I know I can do better than this. I can think of, man, about 4 things I could have been doing when I was in the penitentiary. For one, I should have got my license to cut hair. Man, they had a barber school in the Virginia State Penitentiary, one of the best that was out there. You know, I mean, I could already cut hair, you know what I'm saying? But getting a license, that just won't on my radar. And I equate that to y'all trying to figure out what it is that you want to do. You know, you don't know. I mean, it's the same thing. I'll tell you, when we get here, they talk about how we stop growing. You know, how we stop growing. When I went to Florida, man, I was spending time with my granddaughter, you know, and I always give her some little nuggets, you know what I'm saying, to man, put in her, you know, her mental resolve box. You know, I was telling her, hey, man, it ain't about the destination. It ain't about the destination. It's about the journey. Enjoy the journey. You know, I mean, you can come in here and you can get clean and you ain't got to get no friends. Like John said, you walk around, man, like somebody done pissed in your cornflakes. You know what I mean? Day after day after day. Me, I done learned how to smile and enjoy my days. Because I'm telling you, the days ain't promised to you. He can tell you that. The days ain't promised to you. You can get sick. Anything can happen to you. Life goes on. You know what I'm saying? But come in here, man, anything you want to do, man. My first sponsor in here was John. John was my first sponsor. Man, me and John used to get together. John was the first guy that I know that had a little putting green in his backyard. Let's go out there and putt golf balls. You know what I'm saying? We used to go out there and cut and putt golf balls, man. You know what I mean? And fellowship with each other. You know what I'm saying? Man, I got a partner that called me the other day. I'm gonna tell you his name, Stuart. He called me the other day, and he just bought a house. He's gonna turn it into a recovery house. He's gonna flip a house. You know what I mean? He did that 20 years ago. You know, decided to go back and educate himself a little more, and so now he's in it again. You know, and I was like, man, you know, our purpose changed because he's working in the field. You know what I'm saying? And I just think you got to add something to your life, and eventually, man, your purpose, man, will come, man. You got to add something to your life, man. You know what I'm saying? Look, the reality of it is, man, it ain't like everybody I know is in recovery. But as it is today, the people that's not in recovery, even those that are in recovery, I got boundaries. You know, I listen to the conversation I have with some people that have been in jail, incarcerated, and got out of Pamunkey, and they done got out of other jails, you know, and they still saying, oh man, this thing don't work. It don't work, you know. And I'm listening to the conversations that I get from them. It don't work, but you don't know how to get cash out. I mean, some shit that's so simple, you know what I'm saying? And then everybody calling me and asking me something about cash out. You know what I'm saying? I said, dude, what, you don't know about cash out? I said, man, you need to go to the fellowship, man. You know what I'm saying? Get educated and shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how did I start my own business? You know, no. I should have cut that off. Yeah. How did I start my own business? A whole lot of people don't know how to start a business. You know, a whole lot of people do know how to start one, but don't know how to maintain one. You know what I'm saying? You know, you got to ask somebody, man. You got to ask somebody. You know, you want to be around somebody that's trying to do some of the similar things, same things that you're trying to do, and you want to be around somebody that's doing more than what you. Because I'm telling you, man, I was bad with money. When I got here. And man, I got a job and started making a whole lot of money. And I'm telling you, people was telling me some shit that I hadn't even heard, hadn't even thought of. Marsha, when you get to retirement age, you want to be debt free. You know? I'm like, what? That was like foreign language. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you want to be debt free. you know. And I started learning that kind of stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff started working for me. You know, don't stay in an apartment all your day, all your life. Get a house, you know. Stop making other people rich. I learned that lesson. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because I'm one that go in the stores. I got this from women. They price shop. You know what I'm saying? Man, look at the prices, man. You know what I'm saying? My wife tell me, when you go in there, you see something that you like, don't just buy one of it, get two of them. That shit work. I was like, okay. Get different colors though. You know what I'm saying? You see two pair of shoes, get two. You know what I'm saying? You see two lime green shirts, you get a lime green one and then get a white one. You know what I'm saying? Good price, man. You know what I'm saying? And all of this stuff started making common sense to me. All of it started making common sense, you know? So, you know, thank God, man, that I ran into people, I met people, you know what I'm saying, that was doing things, that had done things that I hadn't done, you know? And you know what? I mean, I don't consider myself a dummy. I told you, man, for those that know my story, I graduated from high school and went to VCU engineering program. That's what I mean. I was up here. And then after the drug thing started and all that, man, it was like 5 years later, I'm in the Virginia State Penitentiary. And I'm trying to figure out, how did I get from point A to point B? Lowest point in my life, you know? I finally realized and accepted the fact it was because of drugs. You know, I was in the penitentiary. You here. How did you get from where you were to right here? You know what I'm saying? How did you get there? You know, now, how do you get out of that? Man, get with somebody. Get with some people, man. Get with a program, man. Get with some fellowship. Get with a fellowship. Get with something, you know, to help you. That's the going theme nowadays. People are learning to ask for help, you know, because it's still hard for most men and some women, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, that's it for me. Because, and I just mentioned, man, I got 3 of my best friends back there. You know what I'm saying? And all of them bring something different to the table. That's the shit I like. You know what I'm saying? I like all 3 of them, but all 3 of them bring something different to the table. You know, I wasn't doing that kind of analyzing shit when I was out there on the street. Oh, that's my boy. Oh, that's my boy. That's my boy. And man, he probably didn't have your best interest at heart. You know? So I got 3 people, man, to bring something different to the table. And I need what all 3 of them bring to the table. This next individual, I met Greg, man, 40 years ago. You know? Treatment center together. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, we just hoping and praying that one day we could be doing what we're doing now. You know what I mean? Doing what we're doing now. So, you know, I like to bring Greg up, man. Me and Greg just reconnected, and we reconnected here. And man, it's awesome, man. Thank you, Greg. Every time I see him, think about 919. Oh. That's where we started growing up at.
Hi, everybody. I'm Greg. I'm still an alcoholic and addict.
Hey, Greg.
I was thinking earlier, I was over there joking with John, and my family didn't pass down money and land. They passed down alcoholism and mental health issues to me.
Yeah.
And and also, I think I was talking to a friend of mine who I got to speak. We went down to New Kent last week, and we're so thankful and grateful we have a good friendship. And Marshall just said it. I have real friends today. And most of the friends I have are in recovery. Because the more recovery I get, the less attractive to those other friends I used to hang out with. You know, I had friends from high school 35, 40 years ago. You know, we were good friends. But we live a different lifestyle today. I live a recovery lifestyle. I want to be around people that know how I feel and understand that I can sit down and have a gut level conversation with when I got stuff going on. You know, I don't talk to my wife and I don't talk to other people. I talk to people in recovery. Talk to my sponsor a lot. My sponsor has been probably one of the biggest gifts I've had since I came in this program. Because what the program has provided for me is a roadmap for living, because I didn't know how to live when I was out there. Grew up on the streets. Lost my father when I was young. Had a tumultuous relationship with my mother because we were both so full of hurt and pain, and we didn't know how to deal with it. So we yelled and we screamed and we said hurtful things to each other. And I was fortunate enough to be able to make amends later on in life when I got some recovery underneath me and got my head straight and was able to deal with the hurt and pain today. And the biggest thing, I always felt like I was alone. I always felt like nobody understood. I never felt like I was connected. But that's what recovery has given me, connection. We just talked about going to meetings. I go to meetings just about every day. So I went to 2 meetings on Sunday. I went to a speaker meeting, then I went to a 4 o'clock meeting this past Sunday. And I go because it gives me a connection with other people. Gives me a chance to see people that I care about and people that I hope care about me. You know, we have a common denominator. We have an addiction. You know, I heard a guy named Herman Taylor, who was at 919 that Marshall was speaking about earlier. He told me one time, and I really didn't understand it. He said, if you treat the symptoms of your disease, at some point it will become arrested. And I didn't understand what he was saying. What he was talking about was all that trauma and that hurt and pain, that self-constructed prison that I had built for myself. If I dealt with that, then I'd have a chance to be free. My sponsor talks about it all the time. How much freedom do you want? How free do you want to be? I have to tell on myself today. I have to ask for help today. You know, because those old tapes still play in my head growing up. You don't ask for help. You don't tell people what's going on in your household. You know, and that kept me sick for a long time. I tell everybody, I'm doing great, I'm doing fine. And I would be on the brink of suicide. Didn't have the courage or the balls to do that. I was trying to kill myself on the installment plan, drink myself to death, drug myself to death. And at one point, my wife told me, what if you don't die? What if you continue to live a terrible alcoholic life like my father did? And that really resonated with me in 2018 when I left St. Mary's Hospital, the behavioral unit, they called it. How appropriate. I thought it was a psychiatric ward. And the psychiatrist said, why don't you get in the program instead of being around the program for so long? I had never been in the program. I had been around the program. Never worked the steps. Never dealt with the hurt, the pain, the trauma. Never really knew what to do with my life. I like fast money. I like fast women. I like fast cars. I like the easier, softer way in life. And that what that did was it always got me jails, institutions, and almost death. I was dead. I was dead for years. I just didn't fall over. Mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, I was dead. You know, but God saw fit after numerous opportunities in and out of this program, 4 times in and out of this program, that this time it finally dawned on me that I needed to surrender. Nobody ever told me I needed to surrender. I used to hear it, but nobody ever told me I had to surrender to win, to get well. And I finally decided that I had to do that. My life today is not easy. It's better than it's ever been, but it's not easy. I have to work hard at this. If I do everything this program tells me to do, come in here, get a sponsor, go to meetings, connect with everybody, tell on myself. You know, my wife's getting ready to go to town this week and go see her mother down in North Carolina. Probably the last time she'll see her because she's 93 and she's not well. And she wanted to go visit. First thing I thought about, MGM Grand up at National Harbor. Give me $3,000 or $4,000 a head on up 95 and going up and put myself in an environment I shouldn't be in. But I called my sponsor, talked to him about that. And I talked to another friend of mine because I have to talk myself out of stuff like that, because I still miss the excitement. I still miss the action. But every time I do that kind of stuff, it ends me up in trouble, And I'm one of those people that I'm so fortunate. I was given, I didn't understand it at the time. I was given what they called the gift of desperation. Didn't seem like no gift to me when it first happened. In 1985, being down at 1701 Fairfield Way on G1 didn't seem like the gift of desperation to me. Didn't seem like no gift. But now, as I've gotten into recovery, and I have been through so much, somebody told me one time, he said, "You've changed a lot. Things have changed me. Circumstances have changed me." At 60, I'll be 67. At some point, I have to say, I've had enough. Enough is enough. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm just so thankful to be, I look forward to coming down here tonight. It's already been a tough week. It's only been 2 days, and we're 3 days away from Friday. And this is exactly where I need to be. And it's also where I want to be, because I have to be reminded. And I have to see people that I know that I'm doing God's work by being a vessel to show that if my sorry ass can get sober and clean, that other people can too. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful that I've gotten to the point where I know if I take a drink or a drug, my life will be over with. My life will be over with if I take one drink or one drug, because I have another relapse in me, but I don't think I have another recovery. That's why I have to tell on myself. When I'm going through a difficult time, I have to share that with another addict or another alcoholic and sit down and talk about it. But I'm just going to keep plugging. My life is good today. Not easy. I've got a wonderful wife. I've got a good job. I got a nice home. Got a car with gas in it. I got a little bit of money in my pocket. But if I take that first drink or that first drug, it's going to be over for me. And they'll say, "Oh, look at him. Told you he couldn't get sober. Told you he couldn't stay clean, just like his daddy." I don't want that. I want to be a good person today. And I feel like I am. I told my sponsor when I first started working with him, I was involved in gambling. I was involved in all this, all this stuff, and none of it was conducive to a positive outcome. And he said, "Why don't we just work on you being a better person today? Why don't we start with that?" And that was something I could wrap my arms around. I'm just so thankful, man. I ride down the street sometimes. I've shared this with tears in my eyes, how grateful and thankful that I am, that I'm not that sorry loser that I used to be. And it's all because of God's grace and all because of this program. And you folks help keep me sober today. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John. Thanks for letting me share. Hey, John.
All right, gang. You know the drill. Don't use, stay out of jail. One thing I did hear, a common theme is connection to people who want a better way of life. You get what you get when you do what you do. If you do active addiction related stuff, you're going to get active addiction related results. If you do recovery related stuff, you're going to get recovery related results. Now, I don't know what the four of us and Stu and Steve and Tay and the gang look like when we come up in here every other Tuesday, but I hope it looks better than where you've been. And each one of you have a fixed idea in your brain right now what you think it's going to look like when you get out, or what you want it to look like when you get out. And I'm here to share that if you seek connection in recovery, by God, you'll get connection in recovery, and you'll get the results. And we are a witness of the results. Now, I don't know if my life looks exciting to y'all or not. I don't have a court case. I don't have a PO. I don't have a lawyer. I've eliminated a whole lot of stuff, and that frees me up to do other stuff. And as long as I try to choose the right sort of thing, I get the right sort of results. I don't regret staying clean almost 42 years as of today. But Greg hit on something very interesting. One thing I guarantee you, I promise you, we all have in common is that ability to pick up and risk ruining our life. And that makes it simple for me to come up in here. I'm telling you, when I say I'm grateful the sheriff lets us come up in here and do this stuff, and the staff cooperates with us and makes it possible, and a simple process for us to come in here and share our experience, strength, and hope with you, to me, that's a gift. And I say this a lot. There probably aren't 100 jails in the United States of America that we have what we have here, this ability to able to come up in here. Now, a speaker coming up in here, much like Greg and Marshall, I knew this guy when he was down and out. I've seen all these guys at their lowest point. And you're getting ready to hear from a miracle. I mean that. I mean, this is a real miracle. And I wouldn't have bet a nickel on him. What, 18 years ago? 19? Whatever it is. And I'm amazed at what the man's been able to accomplish. But more than that, remember, when we see people at their lowest form, what we're looking at is a very selfish, self-centered, ruinous person. And to see what this man has done to our community in recovery since he's been here, that's nothing short of a miracle. I've seen a man turn his life around like I've seen Greg and Marshall. They went from nothing but a taker. And the way I'm seeing these folks, they're good, genuine, generous. They're givers of hope. We're all hope dealers. Take that past life and turn it into good purpose. And I know we represent good purpose. But anyways, I told Jim he can talk as long as he wants. There's no time limit. As long as we're out of here by midnight, we'll be okay. So let's give a warm welcome to Jim. I love you. Pretty good liar. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. My name's Jim. I'm an addict. It's nice to be here. So I didn't know I was speaking until about 4:30 this afternoon, but that's the way John rolls. If any of you know him, you know that's true. So I'm just going to tell my story about what it was like, how I got here, and what it's like today. So I am one of 4 kids. I'm the second oldest. I have a brother who's 11 months older, a younger brother who's 13 months younger, and a sister who's 24 months younger. So me and my brothers, you know, we're referred to Irish triplets, Irish twins. You know, there are 3 of us under 2 years. We were competitive. I was the middle one. And I remember at a very, very young age, always feeling less than, never feeling good enough, and always comparing myself to my other brothers, because I always thought that my parents, and particularly my father, liked them more. And I remember growing up, all these different events as a child, young, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, where I would come up with my brain that, you know, particularly my father, because he was my idol, you know, just didn't give a damn. And there was one point where we were all wrestling, but we were on 3 different teams. And I was definitely the worst of the 3. I wasn't very good, but I tried. But I really wasn't very good. But, you know, I was on a team and I was starting, and I just remember my father never made it to one of my wrestling matches the entire year. And I remember one day we all had a match the same day, and my dad made it to both my brothers' matches and didn't show up at mine. And I was devastated, you know, and I couldn't articulate to him. I couldn't share it to him. I didn't know what it was that I was feeling, but I was feeling a sense of abandonment and not being appreciated and loved. And I couldn't identify it at the time. I just knew I didn't like it. And I felt that way throughout my childhood. I was the first person in the state I grew up in to varsity in any sport for 4 years. When 9th grade, you were at a separate school. It was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and then you went to high school. And I was the first 9th grader ever to make a varsity team in any sport. And the team that I was on was incredibly successful for those 4 years. Not necessarily because of me. It's just we were really good. And again, my father never once saw me participate in that sport, ever. I remember one time saying to him, we would come into my den, and he liked to take pictures. And there were pictures all over the den. And I remember, like, I could picture the den still to this day, that of all these pictures of my brothers and my sister and their friends. And there were more pictures of my brother's friends in that den than there were of me. And I said to him one time, I said, Dad, how come there's more pictures of John Humphrey in here than there are of me? And he just laughed. He said, oh, what's the... And it was just like, you know, and so as I got older, you know, it just got worse. This wasn't something that went away. This was something that was deep ingrained in me. And when I was, I don't know, I was late bloomer. Ninth grade was the first time I ever used a drug. But at that point in time, at ninth grade, once I used that drug for the first time, I never put it down for like 30 some odd years. Literally every single day I used that drug. And I didn't recognize the behavior and the pattern at that time. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that I was an addict. I just knew that I liked it. I just knew that it made me feel better. I knew that it just allowed me to not care about these feelings that I had that were so deep inside me. It doesn't matter. And, you know, so through high school, you know, I was high every day, without doubt. And then, you know, I was introduced to my next drug. And when I started using that one, you know, it was pretty serious usage at a very young age. I did go to college. It was a disaster. I lasted a year, and I was given the option to get a job and not come back, or just not come back. And so I didn't go back. And I did get a job. I worked up in New York City. As a matter of fact, I worked on Wall Street. I worked on the New York Stock Exchange, which is a really cool gig. It was great. But there's a lot of good, fun stuff that happens in New York City. It really didn't help my cause. I did go back to school. I met my wife there. We were married when I was 25. And we had 3 kids. And when the kids were born, you know, for some reason, I was able to kind of put my drug use down a little bit. After my last one was born, and my disease just took off like a rocket. Nobody was more excited for Mondays than I was, because I didn't have to take care of the kids all weekend. And I discovered that on Mondays, there aren't that many people at the bars. And I had them all to myself. And, you know, I would stay out, and I remember I home at ungodly hours. And I remember my wife staying up one night waiting for me because she didn't know where I was. And she was giving me crap. She says, don't you see what you're doing to me and this family? And I laughed at her. I said, what do you mean? I'm not doing anything to you. I'm just going to have some fun. I'm just, you know, how is this impacting you? How is this relevant to your existence? It made no sense to me. And I literally laughed at her because of the selfish, self-centered nature of my disease. And again, I didn't recognize it for what it was, but it was all there. My daughter is 8 or 10 years old. She's at cheerleading practice. You know, 3 kids, there's a lot going on. You're hustling all the time. And my wife said, you need to pick up Kendall. And I was supposed to pick her up at 6. And I went out after work to get a couple drinks, because that's what I did. And I had to get that last one in. I knew I had enough time. But I timed a little bad because there was more traffic than I thought, and I showed up 10 minutes late, maybe 15 minutes late. And I remember my little girl, the cutest little thing in the world, in her cheerleading outfit and her pom-poms, and she was sitting on the curb. I could picture it like it was yesterday, in absolute tears, inconsolable. She could barely breathe. She was so upset. And I'm like, what is going on? What is the matter? And she could barely talk. And she said, I didn't think you were going to come pick me up. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course I was going to come pick you up. Why would you worry about that? She knew as a 10-year-old already. She saw it in my life and my behavior that there was a chance that I may not pick her up. But again, the selfish, self-centered nature of my disease, I didn't see it, and I laughed it off. I said, oh, crazy little kid. Things didn't get any better. I think I was introduced to my first piece of recovery in the mid-'80s. I don't even remember when. I don't. I was maybe 30 years old. I went to IOP. I think I still have the record for having the most amount of time in phase 1 in the history of Richmond IOP. I mean, they never let me go. And I couldn't understand why they weren't kicking me up to level 2. And they said, you ain't ready. And I'm like, oh, I'm ready. Come on. And I never got out of phase 1. I was there for like 4 months, maybe 5 months. It's crazy. And then I left, and then I didn't revisit recovery again for quite some time. But I kept having these little episodes of the reality of my condition. My brother got sick, and he needed a kidney. And in my great thinking, I decided I'm going to give my brother a kidney because there's no way that I'll get high and jeopardize my brother's health, right? Who would do that to their brother? I love my brother most of the time. And so I'm going to give him a kidney. I said, sure, Bob, I'll give you a kidney. But I never took the time to ask my wife whether or not she thought it was okay. Because I was such a selfish, self-centered guy, and all I was trying to do was trying to figure out a way to get clean. Because I didn't know how to get clean. You are probably looking at the only person in the history of the United States who's an organ donor who had to make an amends and an apology to his brother for giving him a kidney. Because it was a totally selfish act on my part. I wasn't thinking of him. I was thinking of me. And when I made my formal amends to my brother, I did tell him that I'm sorry. And he looked at me and he thought I was crazy. He said, you're telling me you're saying sorry for you giving me a kidney and keeping me alive? And I'm like, yes. Yes. The thinking is just nuts. Who gives up an organ to stay clean? I did. You know? And, you know, there were all these different events. I decided that my wife was the problem in the marriage. Made sense to me. So I decided that I was going to move out because I had met this young lady. Go figure, I know. Significantly younger than I was, and as all my friends said, way out of my league. But I still had a lot of money, and I was charming or whatever. And so I started running around with this girl. I abandoned my wife and my kids because she was the problem so that I could go out and have some fun with this young lady who was beautiful and a wild woman. Everything I always wanted. That's what I told myself. This is it. I'm done going to heaven. I got this girl. She's 15 years younger than me. She's smoking hot, and she wants to hang out with me. Well, she didn't really want to hang out with me. She wanted to do my drugs and let me just spoil her, which I came to find out later, of course. And everybody, you know, I thought it was a great idea. Unfortunately, her husband did not think it was nearly as good an idea. And needless to say, yeah, go figure, right? So needless to say, and this is how good my picker is at this point in my life. Her husband is a black belt in karate. He's a bounty hunter. He had been diagnosed with MS, and they had lost their first child 3 weeks after birth. Now, this guy was pretty despondent, okay? He was in a bad place. And when he found out his buddy was running around with his wife, he was not happy. And he came after me. And one night, I'm driving home, and a car pulled in front of me, and another one got right up on my bumper. They put it on brakes. 6 guys got out of the car. They pulled me out of the car. They threw me on the ground. Jeff looked at me, and he said, I'm going to kill you. And he meant it. No doubt about it. I still don't know how. Somehow I got up and got away. I wasn't welcome anywhere, so I went to the only places that still let me in there, and I went to a bar. And I took out my business card, and I wrote down Jeff's name on the back of the card, handed the bartender my card, and said, if you see my picture in the paper tomorrow and I'm dead, this is the guy who did it. And then, check out this selfish, self-centered thinking that only an addict can do. Then I proceeded, because I lived, and I knew he was serious about wanting to kill me. There's no doubt about it. I called the wife that I left and said, do you mind if I come stay with you and the kids? Because this guy's trying to kill me. Now, for some reason, she didn't think that was a very good idea. And she said, pound sand. And you know what? I got mad. I said, did you hear what I said? I said, he's trying to kill me. She says, so you want to come over here and put me and the kids at risk because of your screwing up? I mean, it never even dawned on me that that was an issue. I just needed a place to hide. I just needed a place to hide so he couldn't find me. Oh, this gets worse. That was a Friday night. I got a call on Sunday from the girl's father, who I had run around with, which was a strange phone call, and to let me know that Jeff had gone to the cemetery where their infant child was born and blew his brains out. And that a detective from Chesterfield County wanted to come talk to me. Now, you would think that a normal person who had had the experiences that I just described to you would take a step back and say, hey, you know what? I may have a problem. Maybe I need to take a look at this. But I didn't. It still didn't get it done for me. And it still hadn't dawned on me that maybe I had a problem. And I kept going for another 3 or 4 years. And I got to tell you, they were talking about the blessing of desperation. I got there. I was homeless. I was living under the desk in my office. My car had been repoed. I remember walking up and down Broad Street. I had 25 cents. This was, you people probably don't even know what payphones are, but there were these things used to be called payphones. And I had 1 quarter left, and I tried to call somebody and say, can you come pick me up? Can you come get me? Because I'm standing out on Broad Street. I got thrown out of the Homewood Suites for the last time, even though I paid them. They said, you're out of here. I had nowhere to go. I had nothing. I had 1 quarter left, and I called, and they hung up on me. And I was standing on Broad Street, it's freezing ass cold. I'm in a T-shirt, and this is my life. That's where I was. I went to rehab in 2000. And it was a 28-day program. I lasted 26 days because there was this huge snowstorm coming in. And I swear to God, I was not going to get stuck at this place if it snowed, because I'm getting the hell out of here, right? The Cairn Foundation. I mean, it's a great place. It's a wonderful recovery. You know, I bolted. I went back to the place that I was, where I was staying before. I did pretty good for a little while, then went right back to the old ways, because I went back to the people and places, things that I had been running around with before. And you know what? I have a theory about people, places, and things. I don't think that these other people are the problem, because you know what? Most of them were pretty happy I was trying to get clean, because, I mean, at the end, my dope man cut me off. And he said, I don't care. Don't call me. Now, when your dope man cuts you off, you got a problem, you know, and that's what he did. He said, nope, I don't want nothing to do with you. And again, it just didn't quite click. I showed up at an RCO in September of 2006, September 15th, 2006. That's when I met John. This guy took me to a meeting, which I didn't even know what it was. And after the meeting, John came up and he said, come with me. And I thought we were going to get dinner, and he took me to this house. And what am I doing here? I mean, I had no idea what was going on. And it was my first introduction to long-term recovery. I lasted 6 days. I found $25 in my pocket, my car keys, and I was gone. John grilled me. He took me to work. He would not, until I told him I got high, he would not stop the car. It was a 15-minute ride to work, and it took us an hour to get there. He said, did you get high? Did you get high? Did you get high? No. Did you get high? Did you get high? No. Did you get high? Yes, John, I got high. It was just easier at that point in time. I went to another RCO on Chamberlain Avenue, part of town I had never spent any time in. I was way out of my comfort zone, but I stayed there. As a matter of fact, I lived on a box spring for 4 months. I didn't even know it. There was no mattress. I just didn't know it. I mean, I weighed like 130 pounds. So it didn't really matter anyway. But this was the beginning of my process. From 2006 to 2007, I probably picked up 4 or 5 white key tags. I probably should have picked up 10 or 15. I had a hard time staying clean. The guilt, shame, and remorse that I had from the things that I'd done in the past were pretty overwhelming to me, and I didn't know how to deal with it. Eventually, I picked up my last white key tag in October of 2007. So I'll be coming up on 17 years. God's will be done. When I finally had enough, for whatever reason, I was blessed with a tremendous amount of open-mindedness and willingness. I was given that grace and that mercy. And for whatever reason, when somebody suggested that I do something, I did it gladly, and I went to meetings every day. I got a sponsor. I jumped into service work, all these things that we're told that we need to do in order to create a foundation for our long-term recovery. And, my biggest fear was never being able to forget B's phone number, my dope man, B, right? I remember it. I was fearful. I'm not going to ever forget this guy's phone number. How am I going to stay clean? It's just really crazy thinking. But I remember one day, I'm walking down the road, and I thought to myself, I can't remember his number. And I remember it was like one of the greatest experience, one of the first spiritual awakenings that I had in recovery. I also remember shortly after that, realizing that I hadn't thought about getting high for the entire day. And I never thought that was possible. And it was the first time that I realized, you know what? This stuff may be working. Because if I'm not thinking about getting high and I forgot B's phone number, something's going on. And just things started to get better. And I created some tremendous financial destruction in my journey. So I'm coming up. I'm 16 and a half years clean. It took me 13 years to get right with the IRS. 13 years. It took me 10 years with the state of Virginia. It wasn't easy. I mean, it was a big number, but I did it. And, the other thing that my sponsor suggested to me early on is get your credit report. I said, I don't know who I owe money to. Get your credit report. And they'll show you on your credit report everybody you owe money to. And pick up the phone and call them and figure it out. Tell them what you're going to do, what you can do. And I'll tell you, it was one of the best things that I ever did in my early part of my recovery, because when I called these people, they couldn't believe that I was calling them and saying, what can I do to make this right? They don't get a lot of those calls, right? Before, literally when I left my house to go into my recovery process, there was a pile of mail in the front of my porch that was knee high. I figured if you didn't open your mail, you didn't own the money. It worked for me for a long time. It did catch up with me, but I did. And it was hard to call these people, and there was a lot of them. And some people just said, you know what? Thanks for calling. Don't worry about it. We'll just, don't worry about it. Thank you. Whoa. Wow. That was cool. And then when I said I'd pay you $25 a month for the next 32 years, I paid him $25 a month for the next 32 years. And I did it. And you know what? Strangely enough happened is by me keeping the commitment that I made to someone else, I started feeling better about me and realizing that maybe I wasn't the scum that I used to be. And I was building some self-assurance, some self-confidence. And I started feeling better about myself. And I've come to realize that when I feel better about myself, I'm much less likely to go out and put one in me to try to take care of the feelings that I may have experienced that happen in life on a daily basis. Because shit happens. I had a couple situations. My daughter didn't talk to me for 10 years. It hurt. And it would have been very easy for me without the program of Narcotics Anonymous to say, she's just being a bitch. You're not supposed to say that about your daughter, but, she's just being mean. But, I came through the process and working the steps, I realized that I need to take a look at my part. You know, it's really hard to have a resentment against somebody when you can accurately and truthfully identify your part in this situation. Say, you know what? Maybe this one's on me. You know, I can't be mad at you if I realize I screwed you over. You know, and that's the recovery process. And in the last year, you know, my daughter's back in my life. She sends me pictures. It was a little weird. I'm sending her a text, and she sends me back a text, and then she sends me another one. She says, oh, by the way, don't be upset, which is a bad start to a text, by the way. Don't ever do a text that way. She goes, don't be upset, but I had a baby yesterday. I didn't even know she was pregnant. And of course, my first reaction as a selfish, self-centered individual is, why couldn't you tell me? You know, it's about me, right? Well, it wasn't about me. That was a choice that they made as parents. You know, but it took me a little while to get there. So instead of reacting to what was some pretty shocking news, she's a doctor. She's a heart surgeon. You know, I never thought she was going to have a family. So I never thought for a minute she would ever have a child. Isn't that cool? My daughter's a heart surgeon. She takes hearts out. She sent me a picture of her first open heart surgery. She's in there with her hand on the heart. It was so cool. It was so cool. I'm very proud of her. And then eventually I came to the point, I said, what difference does it make? Who cares? You know, then I asked, can I come visit? And she said, yeah. And then I didn't know she was going to invite me to stay with her. She said, well, you come stay with me. These are the blessings that we get through recovery that I never would have been able to realize when I first came here. You know, I wanted the car, I wanted the house, maybe a cute girl, whatever, some money, you know, the phone not ringing, the bill collector's going away, you know, that kind of stuff, right? But I never would have written in the back of my first basic text, my daughter invited me to spend the night at her house. It was one of the most happiest days of my life that she welcomed me into her home. My youngest son, Michael, never left my side throughout my early part of my recovery. He was my advocate. John I used to bring him to McShin all the time. Him and I would cook burgers at Recovery Fest. He was 12 years old, 15 years old. I was as big as he loved his dad. He looked up to me. I was his hero, regardless of the circumstances. And he was my only advocate in the family because nobody else wanted anything else to do with me. And 5 years ago, he went dark on me. He doesn't talk to me anymore. I haven't talked to him in 5 years. Right? Stuff happens, even in recovery. I got a picture from my daughter of these two babies. And I recognized Louisa, my daughter's recent one, and I didn't recognize the baby next to him. It was my grandson. And then when I realized it was my grandson, I couldn't remember his name. I never met him. I'll tell you, that was a hard one. Not remembering your grandson's name? That's not supposed to happen. But you know, it's life. Another one of the most incredible blessings that I had was my mother was a raging alcoholic. So between her behavior and mine, you know, we didn't have much of a relationship. We did, but it was very casual. And after my father passed away, they had asked me to take care of my mother's finances because that's what I do for a living. It's my career. And I embezzled from her. I stole from my widowed mother. And of course, I justified it because the paperwork, the legal paperwork said that I had the authority to do so as the executor, as the trustee. And that's how I told myself it was okay. Well, my brother didn't think so, nor did my sister. And they let me know that. And the brother who I gave a kidney to actually got me fired from my job where I was a partner of this investment firm. And of course, at the time, I said to myself, that mother, I gave him a kidney and he gets me fired? It's not really quite accurate, is it? But when she was diagnosed with cancer and she stopped drinking because the doctor said, I'm not going to treat you if you don't stop drinking. So my mother was sober for the last year and a half of her life, except for one episode. And I was too. And I would go up and see her. And we got to rekindle the relationship. Now, my mother, when she found out that I had stolen from her, wrote me a letter and told me she wished she'd never loved me. And she never wanted to see me again. It's a tough letter to get from your mom. It's a hard one. Nobody wants to get that letter. She meant it. She meant it. But I got a phone call on September 3rd, and somebody suggested that I go see my mom because she wasn't doing well. And you know what? Because I was working a program of recovery, I got up out of my desk, I got in my car, and I drove 6 hours to go see her. I picked up my brother, and we went. When we got there, it was quite obvious she was not doing well. My brother looked at her and left and went to a bar. And I sat there with my mother, and I held her hand, and I assured her that everything was going to be okay. I told her I was being good. She squeezed my finger. She looked at me in her one dying eye, and I promised her that I was going to be good. And those are the last words my mother heard. And she passed. But you know what? I was able to be there for my mother and comfort her when she needed it most. That never would have been in the back of my basic text of things that I thought that I was going to get when I found recovery. I'm going to finish up with this. My mother, she was diagnosed with cancer. I'm sure everybody here knows somebody who's been diagnosed with a terminal illness. You know, and if those people had the option to go to a few meetings, develop a relationship with a higher power, do a little bit of service work, write a little bit to some questions in a book, and give back what was so freely given to them, and they wouldn't die as a direct result of their disease, there's not a person outside of our circle of people that would say, sign me up. That's all I have to do to stay alive. It's a simple program. You know, we're blessed. We have people who came here before us who show us every day that the program of Narcotics Anonymous in my life and hundreds of thousands of other people works. We are the luckiest people in the world. We are not victims. We have examples of recovery everywhere. Take advantage of the simple program that's out there. Find a way, whatever it may be. If it's not through NA, AA, the church, whatever, any way you can get it. Your life will get better. I'm totally convinced that if I continue to do what I do on a daily basis, that the best is yet to come. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You cut that off, did you? Well, you know, I was sitting there listening to you, and every Tuesday when I come here, I stop at my 91-year-old mother's house, and I try to spend an hour with her. And I'm just one of those things you can't put a price on, you know. We got a beautiful quality relationship, and she had 8 children by the time she was 27. We're all alive. And lately, I've been one of the good kids, so we get to talk about the other kids. And I'm looking pretty good right now. You know, Jim hit on something real important. Most fatal illnesses, when people know they have a fatal illness, they would take whatever is thrown at them to be fixed, to be cured. But because our illness is spiritual, mental, and physical, it's like we want to negotiate. Stop. Just, you know, follow the suggestions, you'll get the result. It's real simple stuff. And I really don't think anybody should ever not follow the instructions until they at least get to that place in our 12th step where it says having had a spiritual awakening. Once you get there, you'll realize that the high you're getting from recovery, the natural high, is better than any drug high you could do. And most of us won't want to make that sacrifice at that point. So it really is as simple as that. Greg, got any closing thoughts? 10 seconds. All right, we're good. We'll be back here in 2 weeks. Y'all been wonderful. Thank you very much. The party's over.
Good stuff. That was good.